Welcome to Ansible for Network Automation Video 5. Alright, so in previous videos we downloaded and installed all of the components to do this, which includes the GNS3 client, the GNS3 VM, VM Workstation Pro, the Viral or CML and Dynamips images, the network automation appliance. We correctly configured it all. Then we completed automating with ad hoc commands, and in the previous video we even automated a switching infrastructure with Ansible Playbooks. And in this video we are going to build a routed infrastructure, and we are going to perform a routing protocol migration with Ansible tools. Alright, let's get to it. I want to save by configs just in case I want to come back to this sometime. Alright, now I'm going to create a new project called EIGRP to OSPF routing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to build the topology, and then I'm going to explain after the fact, and then I'm going to show you the configuration that I'm putting on all the devices, and then we're going to get to automating. I'm going to show the grid, we're going to snap to grid, and this is probably where I am going to leave you guys and speed this up to some music. We created the topology, we powered it on, and now we're going to get to the configuration. Okay, so the next step is going to be configuring all the network devices. So as you can see here, I defined the host name. We're doing the interface configurations, which are just going to be the physical interfaces, one loopback. I'm also adding descriptions to each interface to let you know what interface should be connected to what. Because when you're doing all of these point-to-point networks like I am, these types of details are important. And again, I hope to be able to put all of this in the description so that you can just copy and paste, but hopefully it's not going to be too many characters. And with that, I am going to open up the consoles and start pasting in the configuration. All right, and then one thing I forgot to mention is that we're also putting the EIGRP configuration on here, and of course the remote accessibility configuration so that we can SSH remotely from the network automation appliance. So now I am going to check and see if all of the EIGRP neighborships and routes are in there. so the next step is we are going to start configuring the network automation appliance. All right, first, we are going to give it a static IP address, unlike in the previous videos in which we used DHCP and we would go and just delete the pounds right there. This time, we are going to give it a static IP address. In fact, I think we're just gonna, we're just gonna give it we're gonna leave it just like this. Okay. Then the only other thing that we have to look out for is that R6 connects to it, so we have to make sure that we have the correct IP address on gig02 here on R6. All right, so do show run in GI02. All right, and then the only other thing we need to make sure of is that in order for connectivity, like in order for router 5 here that's over on the other side of the topology, or really any of these routers, in order for them to route all the way to the network automation appliance, R6 has to advertise this link into EIGRP. Okay, so now you can see that we have that interface in the EIGRP process. All right, so back to configuring the network automation appliance. First, we're going to do a ping test, because at this point, we should be able to ping across the... All right, so I think I might have to restart the network automation appliance here. I'm just going to hit stop. Then I'm going to hit start. Then I'm going to open up the console. Okay, so now it's come back up and we see that it does have the IP address that we want it to have. Okay, so we can ping the directly connected .1 address, which is also the default gateway. And we should be able to ping 10.0.0.1. Okay, so that's exactly what we want to see, which is going to be where 10.0.0.1 is located is right there on R1, which means it can go into this topology and then ping that IP address and come back out, which is exactly what we need. All right, back to configuring the network automation appliance. We're going to configure the ansible.config file. Next, we're going to configure the etc.host file. And the etc.host file is where we create the IP address to hostname mappings. Now we're going to create the my host file that's referenced in the ansible.config file. See right here, it says it defines the inventory as being in the my host file. It can be named whatever you want it to be named. And this is where you create groups of devices that are going to be automated. In this case, we're only going to have one group. We're going to call it routers, but you could have multiple groups. All right, so right now we have a fully functioning EIGRP network, and what we're going to do is configure OSPF and then migrate to OSPF and remove the EIGRP configuration from these routers with our network automation appliance only. We're not going to go to any of the devices to do this. And the first step that we're going to take to do this is we are going to execute this playbook that is going to go and log into all routers, which is all of them. And it's going to configure a basic OSPF process 1 and then put a network statement in there to put all interfaces that have an IP address into OSPF process 1, area 0. So first I'm going to create this playbook. Call it OSPF proc. Check and make sure everything looks good, which it does. Okay, so that looks like how we want it to look. And now we will execute this playbook. Okay, and according to our play recap, it went in and configured OSPF on all the devices. The next thing we're going to do is run a playbook that pulls the routing table from all the devices. And so we're going to use this playbook that's going to use the raw module and just execute the show IP route command. Nano IP route .yaml. Okay. So we're going to put this statement in here. So it's going to pull the routing table, and it's going to look for all the lines that have an OK with it, which is going to return the device name, and then a capital D, which is going to be the EIGRP routes. Oops, looks like... had the name of the playbook wrong. All right, so this looks... So right now, even though OSPF and EIGRP are both configured on the devices, everything still... all the routes are still coming back with the D, which means they're all EIGRP routes because the administrative distance of EIGRP beats OSPF. And then we're going to run the same command again with an O to look for OSPF routes. None of the routes in the routing table are OSPF routes for any of the devices. So how do we know if OSPF is functioning properly? We're going to look at the OSPF database and make sure that we're seeing everything that we should see. Nano OSPF database. All right. Now we're going to execute the playbook to look at the OSPF database. And this is what we want to see. We want to see 1 through 7. These are the loopback IP addresses and the router IDs. Okay, and now the only step that we have to fully migrate to OSPF is to remove EIGRP from the routers. So what this playbook is going to do is it's going to go out to the routers and it is going to execute this command, no router EIGRP1, and then remove the EIGRP routing process from the routers. All right, and now we are going to run it. Okay, and according to our play recap, everything looks good. Real quick, we'll just do some ping tests. Looks like everything's still pinging. Okay, so we can ping everything. And then let's go back and pull the routes again. And we're going to use this one to pull the routing table and then look for OSPF routes. So now we're seeing lots of results, right? So R7, it looks like the whole routing table is all OSPF. So it looks like all the devices have OSPF now. So that looks good. And we can even run this again and look for EIGRP routes, which there should be none. Okay, yep, and then this is what this looks like. Yep, there's nothing there. So we have successfully migrated from EIGRP to OSPF using the network automation appliance only. All right, so that pretty much brings to a conclusion what we're going to do right now in terms of labs. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully my instructions were able to get you all the way through to this point and you guys were able to start automating. If you found this helpful and interesting, give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And in the next one, we're going to be going through a lot of concepts. We're going to be breaking down lots of the stuff that we did here in more detail, and hopefully that'll be helpful as well.